ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive.
It is Monday, May 22nd, your drive. It begins right now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann, here until 6 o'clock. We're going to get your text in this hour, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. Coming up today, my guest is going to be Chris Grassie. Marshall recently releasing the men's soccer schedule. We're going to talk about it with Chris and look ahead to the upcoming season. But until then, we'll get those texts in. Again, that's 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We've got baseball action coming up tonight for you here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Texas at Pittsburgh, 6:35 is going to be first pitch. We go on the air 6:10, and you can catch all Pirates baseball all season long right here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. On our sister station, Cat Sports 93.3 and 1340, Denver and the Lakers, 8:30 tonight will be tip-off. We go on the air at 8 o'clock. This is over. I know I'm not doing a very good job hyping this here, but unless LeBron James has got a 4-game win streak in him right now, this is over. I wanted Lakers-Celtics so bad. Instead, I'm going to get Nuggets-Heat. Who wants to watch Nuggets-Heat? Raise your hand. Anyone want to watch Nuggets-Heat? I don't. I wanted Lakers-Celtics. I want to go back to the days where they made a video game out of Lakers-Celtics. That's what I wanted so bad. Instead, I get Heat-Nuggets. How many people are going to tune into that? I'm curious. Does that really do anything for you? I'm sure the NBA wanted Lakers-Celtics as well. So you can just rule out the fix ever being in because I don't think anyone dialed up the Nuggets and the Heat for the NBA championship. On the ice, Carolina taking on Florida. That is coming up tonight, 8 o'clock. So far, so good for the Florida Panthers. It might be Florida and Las Vegas. That's what it's looking like right now in the Stanley Cup Final. Still a lot of ice time to be logged and a lot of games to be played. Something we're going to get into a little bit later on. ESPN came out with its ranking of college football's top 75 quarterbacks of the 2000s. And I'll tell you where they're at later. But 3 players that we're interested in. Geno Smith is on the list, West Virginia quarterback from 2009 to 2012. Byron Leftwich on the list, Marshall quarterback from 1998 to 2002. And Pat White is on the list, quarterback for the Mountaineers from 2005 to 2008. We'll talk about where they're at, where they're ranked, and if you think one should be higher than the other. So we'll get into that a little bit later on. But that was an interesting list I was looking at. I'm still trying to break it down, but I did find the in-state guys. I was kind of curious if Byron would make the list. And, of course, since this is the top 75 quarterbacks of the 2000s, college football top 75, Chad Pennington not eligible for this one. Not eligible, but if we went back a ways, he might have made a 1990s list. I'm pretty sure he would have made a top 75 list in 1990s. But it was good to see at least there was 3 representatives from our immediate interest range on this list. So we'll get into that a little bit later on. Some sad news before we hit the break. I want to talk about this briefly. I haven't followed the Boston Marathon much in its long, storied history. But there was one story that really interested me years ago, and it was the Hoyt family. It was Dick Hoyt and Rick Hoyt. And this was a really interesting story when I saw it because this family became really iconic in what they were doing. Now, Dick Hoyt passed away in 2021. Rick Hoyt has passed away at age 61. And this was due to complications with Rick's respiratory system. Now, Rick Hoyt, if you're not that familiar with the story, this is what first caught my attention years ago, and I thought this was an amazing story. Rick Hoyt had cerebral palsy, and he was a quadriplegic. And his father was there for him. I mean, him and his father were almost staple. They were staples of the Boston Marathon. And it was not just the Boston Marathon. It was in triathlons and road races because they would run the race. They would run the race together. As a family, they completed the Boston Marathon course 32 times, and they participated in over 1,000 other races, including a transcontinental run and a bike journey across the U.S. in 1992. So if you hadn't seen the story, Google it. Do yourself a favor. Google the story. I'm sure there's maybe a news package or two you can find on YouTube. I encourage you, if you haven't seen this story, because Dick would train with his son, and he would push him in the Boston Marathon and other races. I mean, it was really inspiring. It just makes you think, your day might not be going so well, and then you look at this story and you go, well, you know what? I can get up and do anything. Look at what they're doing. Look what they're achieving. Look at how they have overcome the difficulties of their life. It was an inspiring story. So I was really sad to see that he had passed away. Rick had passed away. And I was very sad when Dick passed away as well. But it's a touching story. I encourage you really to look for it, read up a little bit about it, find out more about it, because it's really very heartfelt, and it gives you a lot of positive feelings when you see that. So I wanted to acknowledge that today, because he was a staple. Along with his father, they were in the Boston Marathon 32 times. I mean, that's huge. That is an achievement in itself, and then 1,000 other races. So give that story a look. I'd love to go into more detail, but I don't know if I've got enough time to really do it justice. But I thought you should really be aware of that. If you're not already, it's a great story. So when we continue, we're going to turn our attention to Marshall soccer. I've got Chris Grassie coming up. We're going to talk to him, and we're going to get his thoughts on the upcoming schedule. We're also going to look ahead to where he thinks this team is, and what's it going to take to win the Sun Belt Championship and get back to the national championship. So we'll do that when we continue. We'll get your text in as well, 304-396-TALK. 304-396-8255. This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Want to make a podcast? Spotify's got a platform that lets you make one super easily, then distribute it everywhere and even earn money all in one place for free. It's called Spotify for Podcasters, and here's how it works. Spotify for Podcasters lets you record and edit podcasts right from your phone or computer. So no matter what your setup is like, you can start creating today. Then you can distribute your podcast to Spotify and everywhere else podcasts are heard. Video podcasts are also available on Spotify. And when you want to take conversations with your fans to the next level, Q&A and polls are the best way to get them talking. With Spotify for Podcasters, you can earn money in a variety of ways, including ads and podcast subscriptions. And best of all, it's totally free with no catch. Ever since I discovered Spotify for Podcasters, I feel like I've got options like video podcasting, Q&A, polls. I can create different ways to interact with fans every single day, and it's all because of Spotify for Podcasters. I highly recommend you give it a try. Download the Spotify for Podcasters app or go to www.spotify.com/podcasters to get started.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to our Monday, May 22nd edition, The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Last week, we got the men's and women's soccer schedule, and first up to talk about what we can expect for the upcoming season is Marshall men's soccer coach Chris Grassie. Good talking to you again. Looking over the schedule a few days ago and just trying to figure out where do you get a breather in this schedule, and I'm sure that's the way you wanted it.
Well, hey, Paul, it's great to talk to you again. It's tough to get a breather. It's college soccer, so you're playing every 3 or 4 days. It's just a really condensed schedule. We're basically playing over 12 weeks, which obviously I think we've talked a lot about, the expansion of the season into the 2-semester model or the 21st century model. But, it is what it is. And at the end of the day, we love playing games. We love, winning games. And kind of like living for, those moments to step out in the field and test ourselves is what it's all about. So we're happy that we have as many games as we do against as many good opponents that we can bring here to town. So we're very excited about it.
What was your goal when you were trying to put this non-conference schedule together? I'm sure you had some obligations from previous seasons, but what were you looking to do when you were trying to put this together to complement what you've got to put up with in the Sun Belt? With, again, never an easy game, it feels like.
Yeah, so I think our goal's always been, my goal's always been to have a schedule that will give us the strength. If we have 11 wins, we'll be in the NCAA tournament. It's kind of what I generally go with. I've got sort of 9 years worth of RPI data that I kind of crunch and look at 4-year averages of how teams have done, trying to take into consideration new coaches, have they improved the program, do I think they'll improve the program, and so on, and to just make those judgment calls. But every year is different than the next, so the math is only one lens to look at it through. And I think with this year's schedule, there were some big differences, right? Like this year's schedule, with the Sun Belt being so strong, with UCF coming into the conference, it really gave us an opportunity to try and get some more home games. I think that was, most of the years I've been here, I think we've had more away games than we've had home games. And so this was a great, opportunity to reward our fans. And with us having 10 home games, plus preseason, I think it's going to be an excellent opportunity for fans to, to really get an opportunity to watch us play. And I took some criticism or some suggestions, I guess, from our community. And, they wanted more games on a weekend, so we've got, long weekends, we've got Friday games, we've got Saturday games, we've got Sunday games. So we try to put a lot more of the games on a weekend where, hopefully we can get some bigger crowds and have a better atmosphere. And, at the end of the day, I still think wins puts us in the tournament. But honestly, we set the schedule up, we look at it, we try and we're going to win, 16 out of 16 is our goal. So, those were some of the things that I was thinking about putting the schedule together.
And I think the thing that really makes it attractive as well is not only is it challenging, but there's some names there that people instantly should know. I mean, you have Pittsburgh back on the schedule. That's a road game, and that's going to excite a lot of Herd fans that want to travel. Xavier's on the schedule. That's a school that's close by. So, again, there's some name recognition there. Your exhibition schedule, your preseason schedule, Robert Morris and Michigan. So those are some really well-known. Maybe Michigan comes to mind more so just to your casual fan, but you can look at the schedule and go, okay, I know that Xavier's, I know that Pittsburgh. These are schools I'm not scratching my head going, who are these people?
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's trying to find those sort of name brand games, and if we could get, and soccer's a little different. Obviously, a team like Xavier is, they made the NCAA tournament. They've got a new coach, a good young coach who's taken them over. So I feel like they'll be a very good game. But a game like Xavier under the previous coach they just wouldn't play us. They were, I'm going to say, scared to play us for sure. Because they didn't think they could win. They didn't think it was a good game for them. And we were in that zone for a very long time with, is our RPI going to be high enough? But teams can't guarantee that they're going to win the game. So we give them a challenge to play, and they were just a little bit, worried about playing us. But then you've got this local, Cincinnati, Columbus, even like Louisville area, like teams within, 2-3 hours of here. Those are the kind of teams we want to play as much as we can, especially if they're doing the right things as a program and they're good as a program, because then you can develop those local rivalries. Pittsburgh, right? I mean, it's only 4 hours away. So we want to kind of have those games with our regional sort of rivals and make it easy for our fans to travel and drive and try to create a little bit of, it's a less travel time for all the teams involved and try to create those regional rivalries, especially when we have good teams on there. And then, with some of the other teams, it's High Point NCAA tournament team last year. Cleveland were very good, won their conference last year. So I think we're trying to get, a bunch of good games, and then teams that will also hold up their end of the RPI, so we can, we have to just take care of business to be in the tournament. And then if we can take care of the Sun Belt and win that, then we've had a good season.
Have you found that the spring league has maybe helped you with some of those relationships, trying to build and then get some regular season games out of this?
Yeah, I think so. I definitely would like to play in Ohio State and Louisville, sort of in the regular season a little bit more, with them just being 2.5 hours for Ohio State and 3 for Louisville. I mean, that far away I think would be good, and I think we play those guys in the spring. So I think yes, we're starting to get maybe a little bit more familiar with the teams, and in the spring I'm hoping Louisville beat us in the spring, but honestly that was our best game of the spring season. We were probably our best game in a long time. We should have scored we had an XG of about 4 goals in that game. So for us, it was an amazing performance, even though we lost the game. But hopefully, with them winning the game, that encourages them to play us, because we don't want them to feel like we're maybe a bridge too far, with being too good to play. So we want to feel like want them to feel at least like they've got a chance, so that they can come here and play, and kind of make it a fixture in maybe 24 and 25 as we go and pick up those teams. But the regional nature of the spring league has really helped us as coaches. You get to know each other a little bit more. You kind of have chats before the game and become familiar, and hopefully we can all see the benefits of the spring league, because it's such a competitive league. It gives us something real to sink our teeth into, and the guys, like, they really need that competitive environment to play and to develop, and it's given us that. And us, being the third time doing the spring league, I think, we start to feel like a little camaraderie for putting that together and making it successful. So, yeah, hopefully that helps us play games in the future.
Chris Grassie is with me. The Marshall soccer schedule has been released, and there are a lot of exciting games on it. We've talked about the non-conference schedule. The conference schedule, is, as I joked with you, I don't know where you have an easy one. I think you like it that way. You have Kentucky at home this year. You have South Carolina at home. You also have UCF at home, which is going to be fantastic. And that's a great rivalry when those two programs were in the same conference together. So it's great to have them in the Sun Belt with you. And then you've got to go up to Morgantown, take on WVU, and I'm sure you always I don't know if you circle games, but that's one I think a lot of people circle just because it's been so competitive and so fun.
Yeah. No, that's a great game, and no, I don't really circle games. We play so many in such a short space of time that it would be difficult to pick out. An important one is Kentucky more important than WVU, vice versa. But any conference game is going to be tough. I think the WVU rivalry within the conference is an amazing thing for the state, and I think we've talked about this before. Obviously, my old assistant Strats is the head coach, and wish them well in every other game that they play, except for when they play us. And we're very familiar with each other's programs, and obviously the kids in state with each other. There's a lot of sort of brotherly rivalry going on there, which is obviously a big draw in itself. And then we have Kentucky, which is every single year Kentucky's existed as a program. They've played Marshall, and that's a rivalry within itself, and a very close one for us. And you add in the other two Power 5 teams in our conference, South Carolina and UCF, and UCF have been very good. A little dip last year, but generally a very consistently powerful program. And South Carolina, with the hire of Tony Annan, they've kind of taken steps forward, and I assume they're putting a lot of resources into the program to be good. And having conversations with Tony about how he's shaping the program, they're going to be a force. And obviously you've got the Georgia States, the Coastal Carolinas, the ODUs. The conference is just going to be tough from top to bottom. So there's not really a game. If I circled WVU, it would be too late. If that was the only game we focused on. So we think, our mantra around the office is, we're just trying to take care of conference games one game at a time. If we can, do well in the conference, the national picture will take care of itself.
Chris Grassie is with me. The Marshall men's soccer schedule is out. Exciting schedule. I actually can say that, and I think we're not really overselling that. And speaking of selling the schedule, season ticket renewals and deposits are now going on until June 7th. What should fans know that maybe haven't gone through this process before and are finally ready to take the plunge and be a part of your season?
Yeah, like I said before, the thing we've really tried to do, I really tried to listen to our community and some of the things that they were asking for. We have an amazing group. My wife does a great job as well as sort of spearheading the tailgate, and contingent. So we have 200, 300, 500 people who come behind the field there and tailgate before a game. And the feedback we were getting was, can we have some more games? Can we have more games on weekends? So this year for the same money, instead of getting 7 or 8 games, you're going to get 10 regular season games, and we have one exhibition game on top of that. And then hopefully if we can continue to win, we'll have more home games in the Sun Belt Conference. If we're top seed in the conference again, we'll get to host conference tournament games here as well, with the way that our conference is set up for the playoff picture. But I think fans just need to know, the value for money that they're going to get this year is going to be much greater than it has been in the past. And then we've really tried to listen. We've tried to listen to what the fans want in terms of when they want their games, and we've tried to make those adjustments and make sure that we can provide that. And secondly, this is the deepest, strongest squad I think that I've ever had at Marshall. Hopefully we can reach the ceiling, as my assistant Josh puts it, or we've raised the floor so high. We have pretty much 2 people competing for every position. And, with this recruiting class that we've brought in, I think we have, 5 transfers who are all, either the top scorer, top assist guy on the team, first team all conference guys, plus 8 of the guys that we bring in are youth internationals of the new guys. And, that's not small nations. That's France, that's Portugal, that's Brazil, that's Japan. We have a really, fantastic recruiting class that we've been able to bring in over the spring. And it's going to be a new group. The Pedros and the Milos and the Vinnies and the Ollies have moved on. And this is the next generation coming to stand on the shoulders of those giants. And I think our community is something we really rely on and something we sell so much, because they are just so lovely and so fantastically supportive. And I do feel like it is a differentiator for Marshall and to more schools, just how committed our community is. And it's time for the community. I'm going to challenge them. They have to get behind this team and support this team and lift this team, because for me, this team is capable of winning another national championship and capable of winning another Sun Belt or the first Sun Belt Conference championship for us. So, we've tried to provide as much as we can to the community in terms of more games and more convenient games, but, we're going to demand that they help be part of it. We've made no bones along the way of that. Our community was a big reason. We had 4,000 fans of the 5,000 capacity down in Kerry when we won it, and that was a big reason, right? We made it green, and I think we need that. We need the support. This young team, this new team, has the sky is the limit for their potential, but they're going to need our support. They're going to need the community support. So there's a little bit of an enticement, a little bit of a challenge.
Speaking of that new class, I don't think we've spoken since you picked up a couple of additions. I need to start with, I think, help me with this name, Weinsizer.
I think you're close.
I'm going to go with it.
Paul Swann is the goalkeeper.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Weinsizer until I get a pronunciation guide on that. I don't think we've talked about him since we spoke last, and you made that announcement on Twitter as well. And you mentioned you have depth at each position now. What does Weinsizer bring you?
So he'll be a goalkeeper. He'll be a young goalkeeper for us, Paul. I think he's one for me, the goalkeeping position. Obviously, we had Gabe Sittler, who's going to be a 5th-year senior, and he's such a leader for us, and he knows the program inside and out, and he's been able to step in. But we had sort of Dan Rose, who's an Irish international, so he joined us in the spring, but he's been a little bit injured, with the he's been a little bit injured with some injury that he picked up here when he first started training the first week. So having him back is going to be good. So he played for Ireland under 21s. He's a proper international goalkeeper. Was at Man City, then Everton, then Schalke. So he's had some big name teams. And then Gabriel Perrotta is a 4-year starter from UNC Wilmington. First team all conference. Sort of was top 5 in the nation the last few years with goals against, shot stopping average, save percentage. So he's got 1 year remaining. So I think it's great with Dan being Dan's going to be a true freshman. And obviously has a lot of experience having played for Ireland under 21 internationals. But, Gabriel has that college experience, a little bit older. He's also a Paraguayan international goalkeeper, played for the Paraguay under-17s in the World Cup and the under-20s from Paraguay. So we got two, really, really strong goalkeepers with great resumes, and they'll be battling it out. So that's really good. Then Paul is somebody we see as a project who can develop, and we'll see how this year's battle goes, and then Paul will be able to hopefully be in a position to step in after that.
Chris Grassie is with us. Any exciting new developments with the stadium that you can tell us about? I know there's always something new happening, and I don't know if I can keep up with all the things that keep popping up. Yeah, I know you're still lobbying for grass. I'm there with you, hoping you get grass eventually. But there's going to be, I'm sure, some upgrades that maybe you can talk about. If not now, later.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me and for what people need to know is with Christian and Deborah coming in, and obviously Brad Smith as the president, the pace of development has been fantastic. We're slated to be part of the All M campaign, and we are going to be making big improvements to the stadium. We're hopefully going to be adding some nice seats and some skybox type things and scoreboard, and that'll all be coming down the road. And yes, we have a commitment to get to grass. And every time I talk to Christian, he's trying to come up with another solution to get us some training fields if we're going to go to grass. And so it really is amazing. I mean, they're so supportive of basically just trying to make our dreams come true for the way us coaches see our programs and the things that we need. And for our program, they understand we compete in what's essentially a Power 5 conference, and we kind of we're a little bit in that race, but they want us to be the best in the country, and they want to support us to do that, and growing the stadium and changing the grass is all part of that. And they've been sort of fully on board and fully supportive, and fully committed to coming up with new ideas. And as we get into this All M campaign and we really start fundraising, they've made me feel like we're a priority, and these are the things that they want to do. So no specific updates yet, but it is moving along. We've talked about designs, and we have to bring some architects on and look at some things, and it depends which parts of property we can buy as a university and which parts we can use, and where the priorities are. Obviously, the baseball facility's been such a labor and a labor of love recently, but to see that taking shape so we can get our baseball team on campus, and growing all of the programs to be nationally competitive is going to be a big thing. And for us, it's about our goal is to win a national championship every year. And there's certain things that in the arms race of college athletics and college soccer that you kind of need to have to be able to compete. And although we have no specific developments, I mean, Christian and Deborah have been super supportive, and I think we'll get there for sure.
Ask for a big video board. Just look at the ones going to go up for football, and just ask for a big video board.
Yeah, no, there's definitely plans. We just have to make sure we get the right setup here, and so there's definitely plans to get a video board in the next couple of years and get it sorted. But that's something that will happen in the near future.
Chris Grassie is with me, Marshall's men's soccer coach. You want to mention your camps before I let you go, because I know those are coming up. Yeah,
we've got, I think part of our engagement with the community, and basically our favorite thing is running the kids camps, and seeing that next generation, and seeing all those little kids running around in green and white shirts, or the camp shirts is amazing. So we have 2-day camps this summer right now. We've got June 5th to the 9th, so coming up here quite soon, and we run that in conjunction with the women's program. So boys and girls are welcome to come. Basically looking for pre-high school ages, so probably all the way from 5 all the way up to 13, 14, and then we have another camp July 17th to the 21st, and those both run from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and you'll get to work with our players, our coaching staff, the women's players. It'll be a really fun event, and obviously, my dad will be around as well, giving out chocolates.
I like it. Giving out chocolates. So, how does that work between Hoops Family Field and the Shawnee Soccer Complex? How does that work? That split?
Yeah, we try and again offer. We had a lot of requests, from people in Charleston who wanted to run you want us to run a camp down there. And I know from, my son playing soccer, like I want him to be in Huntington, so I don't have to drive an hour there and an hour back every day to train. And so we understood that. And we basically just send a contingent of coaches and a contingent of players down to run sort of a auxiliary camp or an extra camp down at Shawnee at the same time. Both of those run in conjunction with our camp in Huntington. And the people at Shawnee have been fantastic with, inviting us in and having us run the camp there. So it's a great facility on the turf down there as well. So, you'll pretty much get the same experience, except you just won't have the soccer stadium in the background when you do it down at Shawnee.
Okay, so same experience, just locations. What is the factor here for where you want to be, either in Charleston or Huntington? Chris Grassie, my guest. Thanks for doing this. I know you're always super generous with your time. I appreciate you doing it, and we'll get you back on soon.
Oh, thanks, Paul. Pleasure.
That's Chris Grassie. Don't forget the camps are coming up in July and June as well, and you can go on herdzone.com for more information there. When we continue, we'll get your text in, 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. This is The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Our phone line this hour for texting is 304-396-TALK. That's 304-396-8255. Welcome back to The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. ESPN has come up with a list trying to rank college football's top 75 quarterbacks of the 2000s. And as far as our purposes, we're interested in three names that came out on the list. And that is Pat White, quarterback for West Virginia from 2005 to 2008. Geno Smith, quarterback for West Virginia, 2009 to 2012. And Byron Leftwich, quarterback for Marshall, 1998 to 2002. So let's make the arguments for why these three are on the list first, and then we'll tell you where they were ranked. And then if you agree, or at least where they're ranked in regards to each other. I don't want to go over the entire list here. I just want to look at these three. So let's make the argument. Why is Byron Leftwich on this list? Well, 11,903 passing yards, a 65% completion rate, 89 touchdowns, 28 interceptions, 6 rushing touchdowns. Led Marshall to 2 conference titles. What's he known for? Well, there's that 30-point comeback in the 2001 GMAC Bowl and nearly leading a comeback against Akron with a broken leg. That's a highlight for ESPN. That's what Byron Leftwich is maybe generally known for. He was described as like an old-school gunslinger, old-school quarterback. I love the description for him. And then you have Pat White, 6,049 passing yards, 65% completion rate. He had 56 touchdowns, 23 interceptions, 4,480 rushing yards, and 47 rushing touchdowns. Pat White got it done, did he not? And he also had Steve Slayton, had a dynamic duo vibe going on with Slayton. And the only thing I think that held Pat White back was just injuries. And that's how he was described, being held back, hindered by injuries in Rodriguez's system. And then you have Geno Smith, 11,662 passing yards, 67% completion rate, 98 touchdowns, 21 interceptions, 4 rushing touchdowns. He lived his best life in Dana Holgerson's offense. It was pass heavy. He lived his best life. He led WVU to an Orange Bowl title in 2011, produced 7 400-yard games, and basically carried the team briefly into the top 10 in 2012. These are the three that we're interested in. Now, I'll tell you where they're ranked. Geno Smith is 70th of 75 top quarterbacks in the 2000s. Pat White is 27th of the top 75 quarterbacks of the 2000s. And then Byron Leftwich, 44th of the top 75 quarterbacks of the 2000s. So, for those of you that like the Marshall versus WVU debate, I know I'm setting myself up here. Someone alert Mark right now. Byron Leftwich is better than Geno Smith, according to this list, but Pat White's better than both of them. Where would you rank the three? Would you rank the three? Now, I'm not asking you to rank them in the entire pantheon of 75 quarterbacks. Where would you rank the three? Is Leftwich better than Pat White and Geno Smith? Is Pat White better than Leftwich and Geno Smith? Is Geno Smith better than Pat White and or Byron Leftwich? Which quarterback is better? Which one is the third best? Which one's the second best? Which one's the best of the three? 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. I know, I'm setting myself up. I'm going to get a lot of hate here on Twitter. That's fine. That's fine. It's deliberate. I know I'm doing it to myself. That's okay. I'm going to have to say Pat White, the metrics on Pat White, 56 touchdowns passing, 56 passing touchdowns, 47 rushing touchdowns. That's impressive. That's impressive. Pat White might get the nod over Leftwich if you're looking at those metrics, but boy, Leftwich was something else. Something else, wasn't he? There wasn't a guttier quarterback. You knock him down, he just come back right up at you. And of course, I think the broken leg game really cemented his legacy. The 30-point comeback in the 2001 GMAC Bowl really cemented his legacy as well. I don't know which one I'd want. If I had to pick, I'm going to have to lean Leftwich. But I can't argue with the metrics on either one of these guys. I really can't argue with that. But I think Geno Smith, he's 70th overall of the 75. I'm going to be honest with you. I think Geno maybe is a little underrated, to be fair. And if you're looking at which quarterback do you want leading you to a championship, okay, it's all on the line. Which one's my guy? Who's my quarterback? I would love to have the problem of choosing between Leftwich and White. I'm going to say that right now. I would love to have that problem, choosing between, all right, which one am I putting in? We need a game-winning drive. Which one am I putting in? I think I am leaning Leftwich. That might not be a popular decision among some, but I think I might lean Leftwich. But honestly, it'd have to be situational because if I needed a quarterback that could get me yards on the ground and could throw, I mean, sure, Pat White's my guy, but Leftwich was just a straight-out gunslinger. He's a guy that just go out there and sling the ball, and he could. I mean, if you're looking for a shootout, hey, Leftwich is your guy. If you could corral Pat White, if you could corral him, I don't know if Pat White beats you with his arm. If you could corral him, he can kill you on the ground, but I don't know if you could corral him and keep him in check on the ground. Then in a straight up shootout, I'm taking Leftwich. Now, Leftwich versus Geno Smith, that would be a fun one to watch. Let's not lie to each other. Geno Smith versus Byron Leftwich, straight out shootout, that would be a fun one. So this is going to be an interesting exercise. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of grief on Twitter at Paul Swann. A lot of grief. I know where it's coming from. It's fine. I set myself up for it, but I'm going to have to go Leftwich over White. But boy, if it was just, hey, let's have a good old-fashioned shootout, I'm taking Leftwich and Geno Smith. Those are probably the two I want to watch. I probably want to watch that game more than anything if everything was even. 304-396-TALK, 304-396-8255. We got more coming up. It's The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.
Welcome back to our final segment. It's The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. All right, I'm taking charge of Twitter. We're talking about the top 75 quarterbacks of the 2000s. Byron Leftwich, Pat White, Geno Smith all making the list. So I just went ahead and put it out there right now. I know I'm setting myself up for grief. Which one of these three quarterbacks would you take to win the game? If you need a quarterback to go out there and win you the game right now, is it Byron Leftwich? Is it Pat White? Is it Geno Smith? You can find me on Twitter at Paul Swann. Looking at Twitter right now. Yes, I see you, Mark. That's going to do it for this edition. We'll do it again tomorrow here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
WRBC Huntington, W227BS Huntington. This is your radio home for Pittsburgh Pirates baseball, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.